Well, everyone, we are back. We are back from Essen Spiel. It's good to be home. We are COVID safe, but we are exhausted.
We took some home tests when we got back.
A couple times,
and we don't have COVID, but we do have jet lag really bad.
Yeah. She has it worse than I do.
I have it bad.
I had it bad last night, though. I woke up like at 4 for some reason, and it's been like 4 days since we got back.
This is the most I've seen 4 a.m. consecutively in a long time. Clearly, we don't have kids.
Yeah.
But.
And I wake up and I feel like I'm going to take on the day. And then like 6 hours pass and it's like 10:30 like in the morning, and I'm like, man, I'm tired. Yeah. I'm really tired.
Yes, we have about a 4 to maybe 6 hour window of coherency during the day. And then the rest is just awful feeling. Mm-hmm. So we knew this would happen. You know, you always know that when you come back, you're going to feel jet lagged, but you don't quite understand what it's going to feel like until you're in that position.
It's that like it's dark, you're laying in bed and you're just like, oh.
And some trips are worse than others. Like there's been some trips where we came back and we're totally fine. Yeah. So I don't know. We'll get through it. It'll be fine. Probably in about a week. In other news, we were also reunited with Dexter.
With Mr. Dexter.
He was away, or we were away from him for 2.5 weeks.
He had a great time. He was with my family, with my parents, and they all treat each other with more kindness and respect than we could even imagine. Dexter is like the prince over there.
Yeah.
When he goes.
So. We were a little bit sad, I feel, when we finally picked him up, because he wasn't as excited as I thought he was going to be, as I imagined him to be. But he's resting. I'm going to put him back under the table. So today, welcome to an episode, by the way, of Let's Talk Board Games. That's what this is supposed to be, where we pretty much just take a few board games and give our thoughts on them. Mm-hmm. This is actually the 3rd time we are recording this specific episode. We meant to release this video while we were abroad.
That's right.
But we filmed it, and it was really bad.
It was like an echo chamber. Yeah. We were just like off, and we were just like, scrap it.
We just couldn't predict what kind of environment we were going to be in. And so the hotel room that we ended up being in when we were at Essen Spiel was great. It just wasn't very good for filming.
Poor lighting, really echoey.
Yeah.
Just not good.
So today we're going to be talking about these games, and a majority of them are titles that we picked up at GenCon. Mm-hmm. So now Essen Spiel is over. We want to start, giving our thoughts on some of the games we were able to play. But before we get to that, we do have a couple of announcements. And so if you want to just jump around, we'll include timestamps to the various reviews down below. The first thing is we are going to be giving away a few badges for Pax Unplugged, which is a board gaming convention that's happening in December, the first weekend of December in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. And so I believe in total we're giving away 4 for the main channel.
4 passes. It's for the entire weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And so we are going to be doing a drawing, and we'll kind of leave the details down below how you can enter.
We did this last year, and I think last year we only gave like 3 days.
So we'll give more time.
This time around we'll give about a week. And so I think this video is going out Friday. So a week from Friday, which is next week, Friday, the 21st. We'll put all those details down below. And so if you are interested in attending, just leave a comment down below with the hashtag #SendMeToPax.
Send me to PAX. Yes, it's the perfect little thing that we can kind of filter through when we do our giveaway. So we're giving away, again, 4 of these all-access passes.
It's for the entire weekend.
It's for the entire weekend,
But we do ask that you just be vigilant as to when the end of this giveaway is going to be, because for the winners that we end up choosing, or randomly selecting, we'll need some more information from you, like email address and all that stuff to actually send over to them. So we'll need that information in a timely manner. And just so you know, I think if you want to attend this convention, you need to be fully vaccinated and wear a mask the entire weekend. So you'll need proof of vaccination. And so please don't enter unless you're willing to do both of these things. This year, I believe I will be going, but not you.
Monique will be going. Yeah, I've decided not to go because we just had this long, like 3-week kind of getaway.
Yeah.
So I had to take a bunch of time off of work.
We traveled a lot this year.
We did, yeah.
So and he still has, his full-time gig.
Yeah, so I'm not going to be going this time, but Monique will be there, and I believe you'll be there for all 3 days.
Yeah, and the last thing before we get to these reviews is regarding our Uwe Rosenberg series. So we are back now, and we said that we would prioritize this, but this wasn't going to happen this week.
No way.
That is, doing these games, each game is like easily a 12-hour minimum endeavor for filming, editing it, and getting that out. And so with the kind of brain space we have right now, it's going to take at least a week before we can actually film it.
Yeah.
So I think the easiest thing to do is to just set a date. We are anticipating releasing the next game, in the Uwe Rosenberg series, which is Caverna, the week of the 24th. So that is about a week and a half from now.
Yeah.
because we just need that time to actually put the video together. It takes a lot of time to put each of these videos together. And so we need to have, you know,
the
that
time.
set aside. Yeah, time.
Time.
So anyway, the week of the 24th. So if you're anticipating that video, then just stay tuned for that.
All right, now on to the games. We're going to talk about 4 of these ones that we picked up at GenCon. We picked up more games than that, but we haven't played them enough to feel comfortable to talk about them. First game we want to talk about is from Funko Games. It is one called Rear Window.
Alfred Hitchcock's
Rear Window. This is designed by Prospero Hall, who is their design team over there at Funko Games. This box says it plays 3 to 5 players. You can totally play this at 2 players.
Oh, yeah.
We played it several times at 2 players and had no problems at all.
You could definitely play this at 2.
Yeah, and so this is kind of a hidden information where one person is trying to get a group of people or one other person to guess a series of things in kind of like a Mysterium style game where there's going to be these abstract arted cards that you're going to place out silently and try to lead your teammates or opponents in kind of a direction to make a guess.
The most basic, I think, of that sort of genre of games is a game called Dixit, which truly uses abstract art. The art in this game is actually not abstract.
Yeah.
But in other games like this, it usually is. So another game is called Mysterium, which is one that Naveen mentioned, where one person, I think, is the ghost trying to lead everybody to
solve our murder.
To solve how they were
murdered.
Yeah,
yes,
the place, the weapon, and the person.
That's Mysterium, not this game.
That's Mysterium. Yeah. So this game kind of follows suit in the sense that one person is on the other side trying to get everybody else to an answer. But it plays a little bit differently, and it adds a lot more deduction to the gameplay than some of the other games in the genre does.
Sure.
So thematically, this game is based off of an Alfred Hitchcock movie called Rear Window, I believe.
50s.
And none of us have seen it.
I haven't seen it,
clearly.
No.
So thematically, we're not in touch with it. But I believe the movie is about a photographer who looks out his window and can see, he's kind of spying on his neighbors and maybe sees something go down.
He's into some stuff, I think.
What we're assuming. We don't know. But in this game, somebody plays as a director, Alfred Hitchcock, and there is a board that is divided into 4 different days because the game is played over the course of 4 rounds. And each day has 4 windows. And those are the windows that you are trying to solve the answers to. So before the game starts, there's a little bit of setup that has to take place. The director has a stack of attributes, and attributes are like traits like pet lover or
a writer, a photographer, food lover, something like that.
Food lover?
I think there was like something about food. There was definitely something about food in one of our games.
And each window is assigned one of these attributes as well as a character. And so a character might be a couple. It might not just be one person. But at the end of that sort of setup process, each window will have both an attribute as well as a character. So there's 8 total things, 8 total answers that you have to solve as a group. And so the way that the gameplay works is the director also has a deck of cards, and each day they're going to be assigning those cards to the different windows. 2 cards per window. So one card could be like pertaining to the attribute, and the other card could be for the character. But the thing is, you have 8 cards in your hand as a director, and you have to play out all of them. And so sometimes it's not going to fit. Sometimes you're going to be leading people in the wrong direction, not by choice. You do have the option to flip, I believe, up to 2 cards face down, just so it does not help or hurt the situation.
Yeah, because you don't want to accidentally, let's say like you have multiple cards that have food in it, and the food is going to be dedicated to window 1. You don't want to have to play them all out, and then now you're causing kind of chaos. So the rules allow you to just say, you know what, 2 of these windows, I'm going to put something face down. I don't have any information for you.
And once they've laid out all the cards, then the rest of the group gets to try to figure out what goes where. And after they've guessed everything, then the director is going to indicate how many out of those 8 attributes they got right. And so from day to day, the window answers don't change, right? It's always going to be the same 4 windows.
It's the same solution for the entire game.
But you're, as a director, you're just constantly building upon the clues that you gave previously. So that is where the deduction component comes in, because at the end of each day, the rest of the team will know how many they are solving correctly in that one round. If one round I get 5 of them correct, and then the next round I only get 2 of them correct, then I'm going to be thinking, what did I think differently between these 2 days that I'm now getting some things wrong?
Like
that makes sense.
What did you guess differently that you had right clearly in the first day that you've changed or altered to try to get those other 3 that you missed in the first day? So then there is where the deduction starts to set in, especially in day 2 and 3. You start seeing like, okay, I changed the police officer is no longer in window 1.
Yeah.
And they put police officer in window 1 in the first day, but I didn't say that person the next day.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe that's the right one, you know? So then that's kind of like where your brain has to start working overdrive.
Yeah, the deduction truly comes into place in the 4th round when you have everything
very end,
at your disposal.
Yeah.
There was a game where I think you were only getting like two right, 3 right, 2, and then at the very end, the last day, you solved it all.
I did,
And
yeah.
it was just through deduction.
I was speaking kind of out loud. I saw that there was like certain patterns, and then I would get away from that pattern. And then the way the cards kind of were played out and the very last day, I was able to kind of piece together what exactly you were trying to tell me, and it was so satisfying when you can do that.
It's almost like you cheated or something. There are also a few characters that give you a one-time use ability that can really help you in trying to figure some of this stuff out. But in general, that's how the game is played. It's actually really difficult. It sounds simple-ish, but it's really difficult because of how you're forced to play out those 8 cards in your hand as a director.
As the director, yes.
So you're helping and hurting all the time.
Yeah.
Right.
There's kind of this element of like, okay, day 1, I'm just gonna lay it out. They don't know anything. I know everything. So I'm just gonna lay these out. And then you hear the discussion around the table, and then you're like, oh no. They saw that teddy bear and they thought that meant animal lover.
Yeah.
Okay, how do I get them away from this? Because I can't verbalize like, okay, you got 4 right. The teddy bear is wrong.
Yeah.
So, you have to be like, okay, they're still thinking of the 4 right, that teddy bear thing was the right thing. And so how do I get them and extract them from that thought over the next couple days or a couple rounds to arrive at the right answer in the very end? It's really, really clever design.
It is really clever, and it actually gets harder. So the game is already hard, but there are 2 ways in which it can become a little bit more complicated. One of the ways is with these purple, more like advanced attributes. And basically what they do is they add an additional character. So instead of a window having 1 character and 1 attribute, it'll have 2. And you have to guess it exactly right.
Yeah, and you don't know if it's in play. Like you shuffle it in at the very beginning of the setup. So in your mind, you're like, we put in some of those harder things. But once the things get passed to the director and the director uncovers, they may or may not be in, but that's an extra thing that you have to think about when you're on the guessing side.
Right, because you choose which attributes you're potentially going to be including in the game at the start of the game. So you could just play without any of these purple attributes and just make the game a little bit easier.
Yeah.
And the other thing is every time you play, there's always a chance that there might be a murder. And so it's kind of strange to explain.
Yeah.
If a murder occurs, then the game sort of becomes a semi-cooperative game rather than fully cooperative because the director does not want you to figure out that there's a murder.
Right.
It changes kind of the way that the scoring works, but that is the basic gist of how Rear Window is. It's a little bit tricky to kind of figure out the first time around.
Yeah.
But it's great. I think this is my favorite in this series or in this genre of board games.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites. We've played it several times, and each time it's been fun. I've never felt like it got stale. It does have that moment, though. You could have this if you play this in too much succession, where you see the same cards and you're like, okay, the last time we played this, that cop was there. Is that what they're trying to communicate to me?
Every game of this genre is kind of like that. Or if you play it back to back, then people start like thinking like, well, you did this last game.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Right.
Use every game as an isolated experience, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, it's fun. It plays well at 2. We played it where I was the director once, you were the director once, and we both had a really good time.
So anyway, that is Rear Window. Cannot recommend this game enough. It is a perfect mix of this sort of cooperative guessing mystery solving plus deduction.
Yeah.
So
it's nice. It was fun to play in a bigger group as well. Socially, it's a fun game to get around. And
I don't know if I would play it at 5. That sounds like too big of a group.
Too many, yeah, maybe too many. I think 3 or 4 is fine. 5 might be too many thoughts.
Because unlike a game like Mysterium, where you have your own thing to solve,
everybody's solving the same.
This is just, everybody's solving the same. You're pouring over the same 4 windows, regardless of the player count.
Yeah, it was nice though, like to be on the director side of the 3-player game that we played, and like to hear you two discussing things, and like that was a nice element, definitely for sure, to have that 3 and also 4-player experience.
Yeah, I would say maybe 2 or 3 players is a sweet spot for me personally.
Okay. But
anyway, that's Rear Window. Highly recommend. All right, next up we have a game that we've been wanting to talk about for a while that is also highly controversial in these parts, and it is Ahoy!
Ahoy!
So this is a game that is designed by Greg Loring Albright. It's published by Leader Games with artwork by Kyle Farron. And by the way, the artist on the last game was not credited. So we're not sure who
not applicable,
who did the artwork there.
Yeah.
But this game is another asymmetric game, sort of in the same vein of a lot of the games that Leader Games puts out.
Like Rouge
Right?
or Vast, things like that.
But it's different. This is a smaller scale sort of asymmetric game for 2 to 4 players about seafaring. So you're going around as like pirates. There's area control, potentially pick up and deliver, depending on the player count. Yeah. But it is a highly controversial game.
It is,
in these parts. So we played the game several times now, several times at 2 and at 3, but not at 4.
Not at 4, yeah.
And so the way that the game works is, in a 2-player game, it is an area control game, where one player plays as the Bluefin Squadron and the other plays as the Mollusk Union. So it's blue and yellow.
Blue versus yellow.
And everybody has their own player board. And on your player board, it tells you all the different types of actions that you can take, for the most part. And this is where you place your dice, because it's sort of like a dice placement action selection game.
At the beginning of the round, you're going to roll your dice, and these are the dice that you're going to allocate to different locations on your player board to take the various types of actions, depending on the die value.
Yeah, and some of the actions will tell you specific die values that you need to place in order to take that action.
Yeah.
On your turn, you're placing 2 of these dice. So you're always taking 2 actions, except for the Bluefin Squadron, who has 5 dice.
5 dice.
And the various types of actions that you can take are stuff like moving around the board, arming your cannons, and if you enter a space that has an opponent in it, and either one of you has your cannons loaded, then you go into battle. In a 2-player game, at the end of each round, whoever has the most, let's just say area control points in each of the territories, then you get the number of points listed on the die. And so I believe the object of the game is just to be the first to reach 30 points.
It's a race to 30. All factions are trying to get to 30, including the pick up and deliver, which we haven't talked about yet.
Right.
Every time you explore a new tile, in the center of the tile, there's going to be a dice that you're going to physically place in there. It's going to start at 1 pip value. So if you control that kind of terrain hex by the end of the round, you're going to score 1 point for that. So every time that die goes up in value, that tile becomes more lucrative, and everybody's going to kind of try to rush to it to try to get the most amount of points at the end of each round.
And in a 2-player game, only one tile will have their die increase per round, and that always happens at the end of the round. The factions themselves are very asymmetric. The Bluefin Squadron has these little sharky figures that can also move around the board and go into battle, and they count for their area control points.
They spread quick.
They do.
Very quick, yeah.
And of course, they also have that 5th die, which is quite strong, in my opinion.
Feels like it.
The Mollusk Union has a deck of cards that are specific to them that they can play on their turn that can do really strong things.
Yeah, they can kind of modify something in battle. They can kind of allow them to drop off different units onto different islands to get more control. So it's kind of very different than the way that the other area control faction is going to play.
The way that their units work is sort of like a factory belt, right? Like you have to ready them first, and then from your ready area, then they can be placed onto the different islands. And they get placed directly onto islands. They don't move around like the little sharks do.
Yeah, the mollusks do not hang out in the ocean open spaces like the sharks do. They are trying to control large areas on these islands, and so that you can score those points at the end of the round.
Yes. On these different islands, you'll also have the opportunity to gain crew members. Crew members can change the gameplay quite a bit because they all have a certain power that you can use to your advantage. The way that the game is set up is quite different every time you play as well, because of the variable islands that you move around.
Yeah, as you exit kind of a 2x2 square, you're just going to basically flip over the top of a card, and then that's going to kind of dictate what's on the next island and like what things you're going to be able to find there, what kind of crew you might be able to hire on those islands. And also
even just what kind of ocean path that everybody's going to be forced to travel. So there's a lot of variability and a lot of asymmetry in this game. If you're playing a 3 and 4 player game, then you include the use of smuggler factions. They're both smugglers, and they play very differently. They do a pick up and deliver game where they're going to the different islands, picking up cargo, and then bringing them to their cargo destination. And if you play with these smugglers, then every time they deliver cargo, that is how the dice increase in value.
Yes.
So it becomes this interesting dynamic of seeing where they're going to need to deliver cargo and knowing that you, as the area control factions, need to control those areas because they're about to increase in value. So that's how you kind of score more points.
Yeah, and then the smugglers, they also have this kind of almost like a predicting guessing game so that they can score more points at the end of the game. They basically, after they deliver something, they have these 2 tokens, and they're basically going to side with like, okay, do I think the sharks are going to control
Bluefin
this
Squadron.
terrain?
Yeah.
Or do I think the mollusks are? And they have to make that decision right then and there and kind of put down these tokens so at the end of the game, they can reveal it. And so they're kind of anticipating, okay, the sharks are dominating this area. Is there going to be a counterinsurgency by the mollusks and take over it? So maybe I want to invest in them. That's kind of hard to kind of understand, but it's a really important part of the scoring for the smugglers.
It's just another way that the smugglers can score points because they're only scoring points whenever they deliver cargo, whereas the other two factions are scoring at the end of every round. So, Naveen, what did you think?
Okay. It's a fine game. It is not for me. I was playing as the mollusk early on, and I found the shark's ability to go, especially in a 2-player game, to go potentially 3 turns in a row with that 5th die.
It's not in a row, but 3 turns in a round.
In a round. So basically, you take 2, then the next person takes 2, and if the sharks are going...
Oh, I see, 3 actions.
Yeah, if the sharks are going second, they can basically counter a lot of the things that you do if you're going first as the mollusk. So... I would take 2 actions, then the sharks, then I would go again, and this is it. And then the sharks now have 3 dice. They'll take 2 plus that 1, the 5th one. And so there was a lot of I set myself up, but I'm kind of at the mercy of whatever you're going to do, at least at the 2-player count. So it can be a little bit frustrating seeing the sharks just kind of spread right away. And then you're kind of just trying to play this catch-up game at 2 players.
Yeah.
So that for me was difficult.
The 2-player game is very frustrating, and I can totally understand why. This game made us fight. This brought a lot of contention into our household.
It was like, you're able to just do that? I can't do that.
Yeah. And I can understand why. The Bluefin Squadron is, in our opinion, between the 2 factions, the one that is most outwardly strong right out of the box. Like you can pick this up and start playing your first game with the Bluefin Squadron and kind of see squares, right? Like they're very aggressive.
Drop off your sharks, control the better dice.
You drop off your sharks, you move around, you try to just take over squares, and that's pretty much the majority of the Bluefin Squadron.
Right.
Plus, you have that 5th die.
Right.
The Mollusk Union takes some practice. You really need to figure out that deck of cards and really learn how to strategically place out your units and not get them fully removed by the Bluefin Squadron, right?
Yep.
It takes some work to get the Mollusk Union to work in your favor.
Yeah, so I think there was one, I think I'm trying to remember this now. It's been a little while since we played it, but the sharks had this ability to bombard, I believe. And
they
so
have the ability to just remove,
just remove
all of the units
everybody
from an island.
Yeah, off an island. And that was a little frustrating for me, especially at 2 players, because it's like...
That's what'll get you to pull out your hair, right?
Yeah, it's like I stacked up all these things here. We talked about that conveyor belt mechanism of you have recruits that are off the board, you have to ready them and then deploy them. So if you go and take your actions, doing all this dancing around, getting them on there, and then it's 1 dice, bombard, they're all gone. That was frustrating also for me.
There are other things that you can do as the Mollusk Union.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about every single action. There's a little bit more subtlety to this game. But so then we played a 3-player game thinking let's just try it with a 3rd person. Maybe it'll sort of diffuse some of that pressure.
The way it was, I think probably the way it's intended is to play with these smugglers in there.
Probably.
Yeah.
And so I didn't want to play as any of the aggressive factions in that gameplay, so I chose to be the smuggler, and I had a great time. The smugglers are very easygoing. You feel the tension between the other 2 players, and you're just like, I'm gonna do my own thing.
Yeah.
And the dynamic in a 3 and 4 player game, I think, is way more interesting than a 2-player game.
Yeah, we still had the same issue though with I was playing this time as the sharks in our 3-player game, and another friend, Michael, if you're familiar with him.
Yes, good old Michael.
He's been on the channel a couple times. He played as the mollusks, and he was really having trouble with kind of the strategy there.
Yeah.
And because we're both in an area control, and I think there was only 1 smuggler, it felt like, well, we still have to keep each other in check, the 2 of us. We can't kind of perfectly keep Monique in check because our scoring is dependent on us controlling these areas. So it felt like you were able to kind of just float around, grab what you need, hire some people, turn in materials, and then just score.
The dynamic changes quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I think part of it is neither of them really wanted to go into battle with me. And maybe they just felt like it wasn't going to be as fruitful as if they were to just go into battle with each other.
Yeah.
But I definitely had more of a free reign, and it was a lot more easygoing for me and a lot more Euro-y. It felt a lot more Euro for me to kind of
plan your routes.
Pick up cargo, plan my routes, meet my own goals, and then do that guessing thing. And so at the end of the day, I won that game.
You did. Yeah. So objectively, I could see what they were trying to do with this game and like what experience they were trying to have. For me, it runs a little long for what it is. I think if it was
Yeah, it
shorter,
does.
maybe I'd have less of a hard feeling about it. But it's just not a game for me. Just deciding what I want to do, and I don't know. It has that feeling of like
Stress. It's
that
like
stress
not a
feeling.
good stress, right?
Yeah, like sometimes with like heavier Euros, I'm like, oh man, I need to plan this. I got to do this. Okay,
Yeah.
great, awesome. Whoo, that felt good to pull that off. Sometimes like just pulling off getting 2 points on a die,
Yeah.
just didn't feel as good as I
The
would like it
pain
to.
and heartbreak it took to get there, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
So between the two of us, you were definitely a lot more frustrated with this game than I was. So, and obviously I got to play it as a smuggler. So objectively, I do find the game to be very interesting. I think the game is well designed, you know, with the player boards and the action spaces and the asymmetry. It's a lot easier to get into than say something like Root, which definitely takes you like several games before you can figure out that one. But if I were to continue playing this game, I would just play it 3 and 4. I would not do the 2-player game because because of the fact that it was very frustrating. And I would only play as a smuggler.
Okay.
So there you go. That is Ahoy.
Ahoy. Moving on, the next game we have, this was one that was highly anticipated for both Monique and I in our Gen Con kind of preview going into it. This is a game called Turing Machine.
Yeah.
Not the Turing Machine, just Turing Machine.
No,
I keep making that mistake. This is a 1 to 4 player deduction game designed by Fabienne Gerdel as well as Johan Leve. It's published by Le Scorpion Masqué, and like I said, it is a pure deduction game.
Yes, this is based off of a machine, I believe, that was created by Alan Turing.
Alan Turing.
And there's a lot that went on in Alan Turing's life. I encourage you to go read up on it or watch The Imitation Game. Is that what
I think
it's
that's
called?
the name of the movie, yeah.
We haven't seen it yet, but it is a movie that's high on our list because we do want to see it. But this is a pure deduction game where you're basically trying to crack a 3-digit code by doing a series of trial and educated error, I guess. You put in your own 3-digit code into these parameters that are laid out depending on the scenario that you play, and it'll tell you whether or not you're correct and why. And that why is very, very important. Sort of in a nutshell, the way that the game actually works is each number is assigned a shape. And so I think there's like there's triangle, circle, and square.
Yes.
Right? Each number placement, by the way. So the first digit is the triangle. The second digit, I believe, is the square. And the third one is the circle. And that's really important because some of the parameters will give you clues as to what specific numbers are. Right? Like, for example, one of the parameters might be something like the circle digit is odd or even. And so if I put in a 3-digit code where the circle is a 3, right? And then you literally put it in against this overlay, and it'll give you either a check mark if you're correct or a red X if you're incorrect. And so if I put in a 3 and it shows a red X, then it's telling me that circle digit, the circle placement, which is the first digit, is an even number because the number that you put in was odd. So it's basically how it works.
And counter to that, if it was an odd number, and let's say your code was 1, 2, 3, and that 3 goes in there and it says yes, that does not mean it is a 3. It means it is an odd number. So the design of the machine is very, very,
very clever.
Impressive. Like to be able to do that, like to communicate that kind of information based off the different clues there are in this game is really impressive. I believe you can play up to 1 million scenarios or something like that?
There are like a ton of scenarios that they have generated via an app. So the game itself comes with, I believe, 20. And then there are a ton more that you can just keep this game and play it forever basically. Because they've generated an app that just keeps giving you scenarios. And so we've actually talked about this game before on a previous video. Our opinion of it has not changed. This game is super, super popular. I think it's sold out at both Gen Con and Essen. It was such a hot game, and for good reason.
Yeah, totally.
You know, we are both definitely the market audience for a game like this. So it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be an immediate hit with everybody. I think you definitely have to like deduction.
Yes. If not, that's not going to change your mind at all.
And you also have to be okay with multiplayer solitaire. So there's not a whole lot of player interaction in the game. In fact, the game part of it's basically just who can solve it in the least amount of clues or of like guessing. And that person is going to be the winner. There's not like a whole lot more to the actual game than that, because you're basically just trying to solve this thing in the least amount of clues.
I never feel sour if I lost by like a clue or two.
Yeah.
Meaning lost, meaning like I didn't arrive at the right answer before Monique because she beat me to it by 2 clues. I don't care at all. The fun for me is just kind of working my brain and trying to just figure out these different combinations. And what's nice is like when you're like taking your notes and you're checking things off and you finally see like, that
When the light
negative,
bulb
that X that I thought was like, it didn't tell me anything.
Yeah.
It actually told me so much that there's something really satisfying about that.
So if you like deduction, and like I said, if you're okay with that sort of multiplayer solitaire feel, then this might be right up your alley, because for us, we both really love the game.
Yep.
There is some parts to it that are slightly annoying, right? You know, some of these cases you solve pretty quickly within like 3 rounds, and then you have to pack up all the cards and reset out the new ones.
Do not shuffle anything in here.
Don't
We
shuffle.
did not make that mistake. We knew not to make that mistake, but because this is an analog system, do not shuffle anything.
Yes.
Have a nice organization for it. Be prepared to be organized, and it'll make your life so much easier.
Yes, the cards are all numbered. Yeah. And if you ever played a game like Awkward Guess or something like that before, where each case tells you which numbers to lay out, that is how the game works. So every time you play a new case, you gotta put out the new set of 5 or whatever.
It's the packing up of a case that's like, okay, give me the next one in order. Oh, okay, hand me this, hand me that.
You want to keep your cards in order.
Yeah.
So that part is a little bit annoying.
It is what it is.
For the actual gameplay and the satisfaction, it's one of those things. It's like, it's just a part of the game.
It's worth it.
So anyway, that is Turing Machine. The hype is real. We both really enjoy the game, so we recommend to check it out.
Yep.
All right, last but not least, we have a game that was not actually released at GenCon. We just picked up our copy there, and I think currently it's on pre-order.
It's not out
so it's
officially
not out yet, but it is the newest Unmatched set. It is Houdini versus the Genie. So before we talk about this, we do have a disclosure. In the past, we had been sponsored to do a gameplay on Watch It Played for one of the other sets, not this one.
Goblin Fog, maybe?
One of the other ones. But each set is very different. They're all just part of one large system. So there you go. Now, if you've never played Unmatched before, this is a head-to-head dueling card-based battle where you basically play as a character, some sort of asymmetric character.
Some character in pop culture. You could be a dinosaur. You could be Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
Little Red Riding Hood.
Beowulf, one of the Jurassic Park characters.
Right.
So lots of different characters to choose from. And you can mix and match the sets, so you don't have to play, if you have, for example, this set, you do not have to play Houdini versus a Genie.
Right.
You can just take any 2 characters and play up against each other.
Think of it like as a system, and then these are different things that you can plug into the system.
There's usually some sort of thematic board, and you go around the board, you play cards to try to completely knock out your opponent and bring their health dial down to 0.
Right.
So that is Unmatched in a nutshell. I really love this system.
It's good.
This actually came on our radar because of that gameplay that we were sponsored to play. Before that, we'd never played Unmatched.
We have heard a lot of good things about it from other people, and we just never had the opportunity to play it. And they always play in like 20 minutes, and it's like the perfect length of time for what you're doing in this game.
Yeah, if you like playing 2-player, if you like asymmetry, that's like, it checks so many boxes for me because I love asymmetry.
Yeah.
The artwork is always so beautiful, and just the card play, and it's so good because it's a good mix between strategy and luck. Like there is some luck that comes into play.
It's the kind of attacking game that I like, the no hard feeling attack.
Yeah.
Like where it's like, you're going to run up on me, I'm going to run up on you. We got this. We got 20, 25 minutes to do this. Everybody plays within the same system, like the overarching rules, but everybody has their own unique kind of spin on how the rules are a little bit altered for their particular character.
Yeah, and sidekick. Some of them have sidekicks.
Yeah, that's right.
And you can also play the game for up to 4 players. It would just be team-based, but we like playing it 1v1.
Yeah.
So this is the newest set to come out. It's published by Restoration Games, and there are a lot of different designers, I think, who work on the Unmatched sets. But for this one specifically, there were 2 designers who I believe won a design contest.
Yes, Adil M. Garisu designed the Genie, and Sam Crane designed Houdini. And so they put these 2 characters together in this one box. Very appropriate, kind of in the same kind of theme. With the Houdini as well as the Genie.
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic. The artwork
is
beautiful in this one. Just knocked it out of the park.
Really nice.
I believe the artist name is Peter Diamond. And so, like I was mentioning, really gorgeous card artwork. But as for the Genie is actually quite strong. So the way that the Genie works is if you can discard a card at the start of your turn, you get an additional action. So 3 actions, and they have ranged attack.
Yes. So...
no sidekick. So
if the Genie can be holding a lot of cards at the start of their turn, and they have attack cards, and they're within range, they can do a lot of damage. So if you're playing against a Genie, you have to be very careful about where you are in your zones, and you have to be able to kind of evade and make sure you have defensive cards in your hand to try to counteract what they're going to do to you.
Yeah, they also have neat thematic cards like the Three Wishes or and just really strong attack cards. The Genie is a pretty strong character.
As for Houdini, Houdini has the ability to kind of pop in and out of different zones.
Yeah,
you can kind of disappear.
You can teleport.
And teleport, essentially. So if you see that, somebody's coming after me, and I don't really have defensive cards, I'm going to bail, try to get more cards, and then try to get myself back in the fight.
Which I think is hilarious, by the way, because Houdini has a sidekick named Bess, and Bess does not have that teleportation thing. So you can just leave Bess behind. Like,
you can,
bye.
yeah, and Bess can be a nice little distraction, or Bess can run up on you and attack while you don't have Houdini cards in your hand. So,
yeah, and I think there's a card in there that lets you trade places with Bess.
Yes, I think so, yeah.
Could be quite strategic.
Yeah, Houdini also can boost a lot of their actions. They have a clever kind of boosting mechanism. When you play cards, you can play other cards to increase the value of that first card that you played.
Yeah, and a lot of card manipulation stuff. Like you can return a card to the top of your deck, sort of like foreseeing kind of thing.
You can kind of program like, okay, the next card, I'm not ready for this card, but I'm going to put it on top. So on my next action, I know it's coming to me, and then I'm going to use it.
And that's pretty much it. In general, I like what this new set adds to the whole system as a whole. The Genie is, in our opinion, a little bit stronger than Houdini, probably.
I think so, yeah.
Houdini just needs a little bit more clever tactics to make that one work.
Especially against a Genie.
Yeah, against a Genie.
If you're not drawing your defensive cards, you're in big trouble.
Yeah, but that is Unmatched in a nutshell, right? Anyway, there you go. That's Houdini versus the Genie. All right, there you go. Those are just a few of the games that we had picked up at GenCon. We're still working on a few of the other ones, including Terracotta Army. We've started Jurassic World, the Legacy game. We haven't watched any reviews on it because we wanted to just form our own opinion.
Spoiler free as much. Yeah.
We're not really through a majority of it yet, so we will be talking about that on a future episode. Coming up on our channel, like we mentioned at the beginning of the video, we are still fighting through this jet lag, so we're going to be putting out a few shorter videos over the course of the next week.
Just to kind of get back to it a little bit, yeah.
We do have a few crowdfunding campaigns that we're going to be featuring within the next week, and then like we said, the week after, Caverna will end. So,
well, thank you all so much for watching the video. We hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to see more like this in the future, please consider subscribing.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.